Well, Steve let us know that that you guys talked to the offense and the defense in regards to prominent players, coordinators. Steve, I'm going to start with you. I think more people are concerned with the offense than the defense. So we will start there in regards to Chip Kelly having to answer anything concerning, I don't know, a recent game or anything.
Yeah, a lot of the focus in the interviews, at least for Chip Kelly and the offensive players and Ryan Day, was what went wrong against Michigan, and the coaches seem like they want to take the blame for it. Jim Knowles went so far as to say he told the defense, "Remember how badly we felt after the Oregon game when we had let everybody down, essentially." I mean, without throwing the entirety of the offense under the bus, he completely threw the entirety of the offense completely and entirely under the bus in the nicest way possible by saying he told his guys, remember after that game, the offensive guys, went over, hugged you up, picked you up. You need to go grab an offensive guy and hug him up and pick him up. And if that doesn't tell you what was going on behind the scenes, I don't know if anything ever will. I mean, that was about as blatant as one side cost us the game, and he didn't even mean it that way. It's just the fact of the matter. And you know it, and I know it, and everybody in TV land knows it, and Chip Kelly knows it. And, I think however long his tenure at Ohio State is going to last, if it's going to be meaningful and it's going to be productive, it needs to involve having a much, much better plan for this game against Oregon, or rather against Tennessee, and to get to play Oregon. And I think it's kind of stunning that you're at this point of the season going into game 13, and they are openly and actively talking about starting a player who has played 77 snaps all season long in Luke Montgomery on the offensive line. And I'm not saying he could be the answer. He may not be the answer. I don't know. It's kind of like the scene in what was it, War Games with Barry Corbin, that old grizzled actor. He goes, "I'd piss on a spark plug if I thought it'd do any good." It's like that's kind of where they're at today. I mean, they're playing a guy potentially who hasn't played all year because, and as Ryan Day said very tellingly, it's not necessarily because of anything he showed us in practice. In parenthesis, he basically said it's because of how bad the last game went with the players that they did play. So those were two of the things that I gleaned from this, that Jim Knowles openly told his guys to go hug up an offensive player because they, screwed the whole thing up against Michigan, and they feel bad now. And things have gotten to such a point that they're going to play a guy who's never played. He played 27 snaps against Western Michigan of his 77 snaps this year. He has not played in a meaningful snap at a meaningful moment yet this year. Tony, what was your take?
Well, one of the interesting things is when Jim Knowles was asked about his defense, and it was mentioned, the question was like, and your defense played well enough to win against Michigan, and Knowles stopped him right there. He's like, did we win? Did we win? No, we gave up points. And it was quite the contrast from, Steve, you'll remember Luke Fickell, I believe after the 2013 Michigan game where Ohio State gave up 41 points and questions about the defense came up, and he's like, did we win?
He meant it the other way. Yeah.
Knowles meant it the exact opposite way. Like, we did not do well enough to win. And it doesn't matter that they gave up a scoring drive of 2 yards and a scoring drive of 3 yards. There was the fourth quarter that happened. So there were still areas where the defense could have done more. In terms of the offense as a whole and Chip Kelly, and it's, you would hope that they have learned their lesson, that you would have hoped that they shouldn't have had to learn that lesson of don't run inside on Michigan, and also don't try running inside on Tennessee, and get the ball to your playmakers and all of those things that Ryan Day said they should have done after the fact. And so you learn your lessons, you move on, but then the players still have to execute. Yeah, you hope your coaches have a good plan But then the players need to play better than they did as well. Even with a bad plan, with a little better play from the Ohio State offense, they win that game against Michigan. But you're going to need a better plan against a better team. And I keep on all of these shows that we do that I'm doing, I keep telling like the fans have an opportunity to win this game. They have an opportunity to impact this game. When you're talking about an offensive line for Tennessee that is jittery they're already jittery. Their tackles jump quite a bit. And if you make them go to a silent count because of the crowd, then you have an advantage. So the crowd has an opportunity to impact this game in a big way. And I'm not talking about grumbling or booing. I'm talking about getting loud for the Ohio State defense. We'll see. I expect them to step up.
I expect them to step up initially. I am not so sure whether they will hold down throughout a game that's not meeting expectations. Down 10 in the second quarter, so forth and so on. And for 100,000 to be all pulling together, sure, some are going to be faithful to the end. Others at the very first hint of any type of issues or adversity are going to turn on this team. So hopefully the majority are with this team because it's counterproductive, obviously.
Don't you think that makes those people as soft as they claim the football team is, or softer? I mean, that's my whole stance. Like, if you're going to give up in the first quarter, then don't show up. If you're just going so that you can, I'm going to boo so
I was
loud.
there.
Yeah. If there's 1 3 and out and you can't handle that, go home, stay away.
Yeah.
An empty seat would be better.
This is going to be like the Snow Bowl, that they played in 1950. And now the weather's not going to be quite that bad because they had like 6 inches of snow and it was blowing. It was like a blizzard. They played and I think the temperature was like 10 or 15 degrees and it was blowing. And, it was a miserable game. Michigan won the game 9-3. And, X number of people were actually there. But in the 50 years that followed, a lot of people said they were there, that type of thing. And, I don't think we're going to have snow, which, I mean, we could because the temperatures will be below freezing. But, and it has rained here all week. I woke up this morning and it's pouring down rain again. Thank God, as a buddy of mine would say, that it's not 28 degrees today. Otherwise, we'd have 4 inches of snow on the ground right now. But right now, it's just traditional Ohio gray and dreary. So that's what Tennessee's walking into on Saturday, cold and dreary.
My brother lives in Nashville and says that they got their first snow, which they don't get usually more than one the entire year, but they already got it. So
yeah,
there is that. I'm sure it lasted 3 or 4 hours. So speaking of the crowd, there's this story out there that I have not tracked down or have basically just heard told to me in various forms and seen comments in the chat concerning some kind of leak of an Ohio State ticket code. And then there may be some concern over just a rush of orange invading the stadium. Has anyone gotten to the bottom of that or found out any kind of truth concerning that situation?
Well, go ahead, Tony. If you got
I don't. I was shaking my head. I have nothing. I asked Jerry Emig about the whole thing. And he's like, yeah, there's the game. I guess it's sold out, right? But there are a ton of seats, ton of tickets on the secondary market. But I'm not. I think it's probably going to be overblown in terms of how many seats the Vols are going to be in.
Yeah. I think that was much to do about nothing. I think for Tennessee, it is their first playoff appearance, and they have tremendous following, and it's only 6 hours away. So Knoxville, and there are a lot of Tennessee alums who actually live here in Ohio, believe it or not. Cincinnati certainly, and then on up this way. So even all the way up to Cleveland. So I think that out of 105,000 people, there will probably be 15,000 Tennessee fans. They got 3,500 tickets, the school did, that they could sell directly to their highest rollers and their friends and family, certainly. But to me, I think it's a big to do. I think a lot of people hoarded tickets. They got in there and they bought 6 or 8, thinking I'll turn these on, uh, uh, resale. And the issue is it's 26 degrees, and there are only certain number of people who are crazy enough to go out and sit in 26-degree weather to watch a college football game. And I think nearly every seat will be full, but I think that compacts the number of people who are willing to go to this game. I think anybody over the age of 50 or 55, 60 is seriously saying, I ain't going there and getting sick, and ruin my winter, ruin my Christmas. So, I think you have to look at it in those terms that, Michigan, you'd say, oh, it's always a big ticket game. Well, it's usually a softer ticket than you think it is, because there's a lot of people who simply will not sit outside in 30-degree weather to watch a college football for 4 hours through all the TV timeouts. I mean, it just, this is going to be a 4-hour game. It's going to start at 8. It's not going to end till 11:45. And then with traffic at Ohio State, as terrible as it is, you're not going to get home until 1:30 or 2 in the morning. And that's even if you live within 20 miles of the stadium. So it just, for a lot of people, that just doesn't sound that appealing. So even though it is history, it's the first ever December game. So, yeah, I think there'll be some Tennessee people there, but I don't think it's going to be enough to impact the game. And, Ohio State people have to bring it. I thought the Indiana crowd was great. I didn't think the Michigan crowd was very good. It was 15 degrees colder, so people were bundled up maybe a little bit more than they were against Indiana. I mean, you don't hear a lot when people are clapping their gloves as opposed to when people are clapping their hands. But, I don't know. It's they got to bring it, just as much as people say the team's got to bring it, the coaches got to bring it, the fans got to bring it in this game as well. So I think it'll be a great crowd, and the people who will be there will be the people who want to be there. They're not just going to see and be seen.
We haven't heard anything about any post-game ceremony or anything. Are we assuming it's just going to be like a regular game? After the game is over, everybody just leaves the field? Like, there's nothing going on afterwards, right?
No, though, there'd be no podium or anything like that, because I think there'll be on-field interviews, with, a couple of the players and maybe the head coach of the winning team, as you always see in every ESPN game. But to my way of thinking, no, there's no ceremony or anything like that. This is just, you move on and advance. For the bowl game, there probably will be. For the Rose Bowl, there probably would be the next game, because that's just part of the pomp and circumstance of the Rose Bowl. But, for the corporate sponsor to get their moment in the sun, the CEO of City Financial or whoever sponsors it. But, I envision I guess there'll be some differences that, like, Tennessee will probably get to play like a warm-up video, a come-out video when they're coming out of the tunnel. And from what I understand, IMG Learfield, who does all the ribbon boards and all the advertisements, this is all college football playoff stuff that will run in those places. So, and they have to, I think even go so far. Ohio State has LED boards now in place of most of the advertising signs. I think that even advertisements have to be like covered up or, CFB approved, to appear in the stadium during this. But otherwise, it's supposed to be an Ohio State home game. And we'll see how much that is, if they're going to play CFP music, or if it's the Ohio State DJ who does it, or if it's, I think both bands will be there certainly. So I think both bands are going to play for like 6.5 minutes at halftime. I assume both bands will be on the field before the game. So, it'll be different. It'll be different, but it's definitely Ohio State's home game. So, the Buckeyes and their fans need to show out.
Yeah, I don't necessarily understand the overwhelming incentive when you can stay home and see the product in every possible way, every possible angle of play, and so forth and so on, to devote 10 hours of your day to do that. But that's
Well,
me.
This is kind of like the spring game version of the playoffs, where it's still an expensive ticket, but relative to going to the Rose Bowl or the Sugar Bowl or whatever, it's like this is the cheapest ticket that you can get if you want to spend $200 on one ticket to watch a playoff game, as opposed to airfare and hotel and another $250 to get the ticket. So this is the more family friendly edition, where it would only cost a family of four $1,000 to get into the game. It's basically nothing.
One of my best friends, his wife, daughter, son-in-law to be, son, the son-in-law to be's father, the whole clan's going, and he's like, have a good time. I'll sit in my comfort.